Should you buy an RTX 3080 for Star Citizen? I finally got one 2 months later. So we're going to have a look around the standard system and compare it to my 1070 Ti and see, is it worth it? Okay, so here's the rig, 3700X, 32 gigs of RAM, CL16 3600 MHz, and then we've got the 3080 Founders Edition versus my old 1070 Ti EVGA SC Black something or other. And the 1070 Ti is comparable, it's really not far off a 1080. A 2060 is again only a little bit ahead, and on the AMD side around the Vega 56 mark. Based on all reviews for the 3080 out there, you might guess that it will be about twice as fast as a 1070 Ti. Now, in most games that might be true, but in Star Citizen, as we will see, that is definitely not going to be true. The game is not optimized in any way. There's huge kind of projects going on at CRG in terms of making a Vulkan implementation for the engine that hopefully will make a big difference in terms of graphics. But again, it's an alpha and it's a bit of a joke, a bit of a meme, but the game isn't anywhere near being finished 8 years in. And that basically means there's huge parts of the game that just are completely unoptimized. So I am not expecting to see the 3080 do particularly well, and nor should you. Okay, first up is Lorville, and I've done quite a lot of testing at Lorville for different videos, and I've got a run that goes all the way from the Habs all the way through to New Deal, the kind of spaceship shop, and you can see here the improvement in frames per second, not great. It's a kind of the pattern of things to come. What's quite interesting when you look at the kind of GPU load here is that the 1070 Ti is kind of peaking at 9% load, and there's that interesting stat there, time in GPU load limit. 60% of the time it is coming up against a GPU bottleneck, whereas obviously the 3080 is not at all being utilized, past 72% there max on the left there. So yeah, it's kind of what's to be expected around the cities, that you're not GPU limited at all. It's the server, it's potentially more CPU limited, but yeah, we'll keep going. Okay, here we are at the Levski statue, and it's affectionately called Lagski for good reason, because even here with the 3080 you cannot get above 30 FPS. And here you can see what's going on really. Neither the 1070 Ti or the 3080 are being fully utilized. The load on the GPU is below 99% on both of them. Yeah, and Levski has been in for a long time. It's not been optimized, I don't think, in the last few years at all. And I think we have to just chalk this one off to it's an unoptimized part of the game. Okay, so a newer city now, ArcCorp, Area 18 and Plaza, and it's basically the same story as Lorville and Levski. Not much of an improvement at all, and it's just the same in this one. The story does change as we keep going, so keep watching. But you can see there the 1070 Ti actually does come up against the GPU load limit there. It is being fully utilised, but Star Citizen, the engine as it is, just cannot utilise the 3080 anymore, whether that's for server reasons or whether that's for CPU. It's probably a mix of both, but that's that one. We'll carry on. Okay, here we are on Microtech, going to Wally's bar in New Babbage, and the result here is slightly better for the 3080. It actually does at least top 30 for the 1% FPS there, and it's kind of the same story again for the 1070. It's coming up its limit really, peaking at 99% usage, and yeah, it's a slight win for the 3080 here, but 40 FPS isn't much to write home about. It's a newer landing zone, better optimized, but yeah, again, I'm not expecting it much better than this, to be honest. This was my expectation coming into it, but we're really waiting for the Gen 12 stuff, the Vulkan work that CRG are doing to make any difference in these sorts of areas. Okay, some results now that there's a bit of an improvement. Quantum traveling here in an Avenger, and there is actually an improvement, finally. And as you'll see, the 1070 is completely pegged at 99% use 100% of the time, whereas the 3080 can stretch its legs probably slightly for the first time, getting up to nearly 80% GPU load there. But again, it's not a massive improvement, but this is the best result we've seen so far. There's no AI going on here. There's nothing really to do for the game. We're quite away between planets here, so we're not loading in any more object containers or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. We're just floating in space with some nice graphics. Okay, here we are in an arrow, having quantum travelled to ArcCorp. We're just sitting here watching the clouds go by. And there's a big improvement, pretty big improvement for the 3080 here, because the 1070 Ti is completely maxed out 100% of the time. Basically, the game is doing next to nothing here, rendering the arrow HUD and the nice clouds and the planet slowly rotating, but it's not graphically challenging to render at all. This is a best case scenario. If you're in space, there's nothing around, you can get decent frames. Okay, the best result saved for last. Calliope, one of Microtech's moons, and what's going on here is the storm effects are quite GPU intensive. So we do actually see the 3080 being pushed a little bit. So 83 FPS, and it spends 8% of this run in being loaded out. So 97%, which I guess is close enough. We're actually pushing it. The 1070 Ti is obviously not getting anywhere near that, and this is the first and only time I could find in the different tests that I did where this is kind of the result you'd expect from a normal game, where the frames are doubled. Now obviously the lows there are quite significantly down. It's still a lot better than the 1070 Ti, but this is as good as I could find it. Okay, bonus mission here, the bounty hunter assessment mission around Hurston, and you see here on the graph it's showing FPS, and they start pretty well once you quantum travel in, and then as soon as the fight gets going they drop, and they're quite close up. Detail on the ship as well, absolutely disgraceful piloting there from me, and I'm going to blame the IF on that one, but you can see that basically it's playable, averaging 50. I mean, a lot of that is the hives before. You're definitely dropping under 50 for the fight, but it's playable for Star Citizen at least. And you'll see here, once I have masterfully blown the guy up, which happens right about now, the frames go back up, because again, you're then just in space. There's nothing really going on. So is it worth it? It really depends how you look at these things. It's definitely an investment for the future. It's not going to become a bad graphics card anywhere near in the next couple of years. But Star Citizen at this point cannot utilise the 3080 to its full extent by any stretch at 1440p at least. I will do some 4K testing if there's enough interest in the comments below. So let me know if you want to see that. But yeah, the 1070 Ti is bottlenecked in the cities, but really it then isn't much better with the 3080. You don't see much improvement. Obviously in space you do, but is that enough to justify buying this card just for Star Citizen? No. And the reality is not many people will be buying a computer or building a computer just for Star Citizen. There's other big games coming out. Cyberpunk is obviously on the horizon, hopefully, and that will utilise this card. So there are other reasons other than Star Citizen to buy a really good graphics card. But the advice for a long time with Star Citizen has been wait. Don't buy a machine just for Star Citizen. And 8 years on, that's still true. If you were buying a graphics card right today, you may find that in a few years' time you're going to have to replace it. So it still is not optimized in any way. We're still waiting on CIG to do all the Gen 12 Vulkan stuff. As I've said, I think the community's pinned a lot of hope on that stuff to see performance improvements, but we will see how well that comes off. In theory, looking at other games where they've implemented Vulkan, it does seem to make a difference, but we're still in alpha. There's not been much optimization done in terms of graphics or in terms of performance for any of the Stanton system as it is, and they shouldn't do anyway. As they say many times, there's not much point doing a load of work that they're going to have to redo again as the game goes on. So yeah, that's some thoughts on that. For me personally, I'm pretty happy with it because, again, I'm not just playing Star Citizen, but it also allows me to do a lot more testing. So previously I've done a few tests, but I've been pretty GPU bottlenecked, well, as you've seen, by the 1070 Ti, which means that in terms of doing any real CPU testing, you can't really do it. So my plan after this is to do a load more testing, maybe think about overclocking the 3700X, the Ryzen CPU, and then maybe doing some other things like turning off cores, seeing if that makes a difference, seeing if there's, when do you start losing performance, turning off cores or things like that. So yes, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, subscribe. And the other thing would be, if you have liked all this stuff, come and follow me on Twitch when I get to 100,000 Twitch followers, which I know sounds like a lot, but Star Citizen is going to be here for hopefully the rest of our lives. When I get to 100,000 Twitch followers, I will get a tattoo of Chris Roberts' face on my foot. And that's all been agreed with my wife, and I will do it. So that's the end of this one. Hopefully that's useful. Let me know in the comments if you want to see different testing or different things with it. And I'll see you soon. Bye.